I asked you on Twitter to ask me anything, and I wanted to do a video about your questions, my answers, and give you a shout out as well. So let's get started. This is a great question from Avishka. They're asking, do you need to remember everything, or can you reference your previous work? I reference my previous work all the time. I think that's really important, but it's also important to be aware that things might have changed. So it's not exactly the same, but you've got like a starting point, you've got an idea. We cannot remember everything in tech. We just can't. But it's important to know where to look for a potential solution or a starting point, and then we can search for better solutions because we've got that starting point. I hope that helps. Good luck in your adventures. Let me know how it goes. Adash, I love this question. This is a really important question because I'm human, and this is actually, can be challenging for me as well. So I love this. Thank you so much. The question that Adash asked, hopefully I pronounced your name right, is how do you manage to be super cool and excited all the time? Well, I'm glad you think that. And I do get quite excited when I'm geeking out by myself on open source with all you amazing people or on Twitter. And it's the community that gives me the energy and the excitement, to be honest. That's why every morning I make sure I look at some pull requests. I look at Discord. I look at Twitter. That gives me the energy. I do have my, low days, I suppose, but my low days are probably pretty high compared to most people because of the amazing community and amazing people like you and these questions, right? I put out this tweet, you've replied, you supported me, and I love this question. But there are days when I do need to rest, and I just think, you know what, I need to rest. And I take that rest. Make sure that we don't burn out, because sometimes you do want to power through and push forwards, but there needs to come to a point when you realize, actually, this is actually not being productive. I think it's important to be productive. That's where the community comes in, and Sarah really helps. They say, it looks like you're not being productive, you're getting frustrated, maybe it's time to take a break. And the break could be 20 minutes, just jump in the pool, walk on the beach, or it could be the rest of the day, or it could be the entire day or entire weekend. And you come back just so much more supercharged. So yeah, I'm human too, but I get really excited with the community. So thank you, and thank everyone for just always geeking out with me. I really appreciate it. A really interesting question by John. So thank you so much for this, John. Why did I decide to create EdiHub? Well, there are lots of communities out there already. So I don't think that's the first place people should just start. And I joined many communities, and they're great communities, don't get me wrong, but they're very bro, very, hey guys, thanks man, to everybody. And that kind of really bugged me because then, it wasn't very inclusive. So I wanted to make an open source community, one that didn't have random channels, didn't have memes channels, one that focused on open source, but was really, really inclusive for everybody. And hopefully I've achieved that. And we're making improvements all the time with everyone's feedback. We're continually making improvements, and the community members are what make the community. And a big shout out to the EdiHub members. You're all just super awesome. Chimai asks, new things I want to learn in 2023. Wow. Well, I actually want to learn how to ride a motorcycle properly. I ride a scooter and I do a bit of motocross, but I'd love to ride a motorcycle. But I guess you're referring to tech. So if we focus on tech, I want to get better at Next.js, especially the new version of Next.js with all its amazing features. It just seems super powerful and perfect for the EdiHub link-free project, which is really, really taking off. And so I'd like to benefit from those amazing new features. I'd also like to get better at DevOps. I haven't done a lot of Kubernetes the last few months. I did last summer. I've taken a break, focused more on coding. So I would like to get back into doing some more Kubernetes, and we're porting over the EdiHub projects over to Kubernetes. We were on Kubernetes. We came off Kubernetes briefly because there was a kind of a major Kubernetes upgrade, which broke some of our stuff, didn't get time to fix it. So we went to using apps on DigitalOcean, which is really expensive and it doesn't scale as much. Sorry, DigitalOcean. They're great to just get started, but they can get quite expensive and you don't get the same scalability. So we want to move to Civo, where we can actually run some really nice, powerful Kubernetes clusters. So Dean, Marino, and David and other people are really helping us migrate over to using Kubernetes and having all that infrastructure as code in the EdiHub organization. So if you want to get involved in that, go take a look. Suggestions, help, feedback, questions are all welcome. Priyanka asks how to start your own open source project. Well, the best thing to do is create the repo. Okay, that sounds silly, but a lot of people overthink it and overplan it and try and do all this work locally. So even before you start coding, just create the repo. And it will ask you if you want to add a README. And the answer is yes. Tick that box, create the README. And then just write down a few bullet points of some features that you want to include in the project. You haven't started coding yet, and that is fine. That's really important because you start appearing in search. If people ask you about your project or you talk to them about it, you can send them a link to the repo. They can create issues. No pull request, no code yet, but you can just kind of get started, get that energy, get that momentum. Other people might join you on the project as maintainers or contributors. There's just so many ways to get involved. But if there isn't anything there, then how can they do that? So I highly recommend doing that and then start coding and do kind of a hello world simple example. And then you just work on it and build on it from there. And when you learn something new, share it on socials and in the reply, put a link to your repo. Just say, look, I learned this, I used it here, here's an example. And if you want to see the repo where I used it, here's a link to it. Therefore, you can kind of drive traffic slowly, so not in a salesy way, but slowly but surely to your repo so you can get contributors. Manish asks a really hard question. What field would you choose if you wanted to start over again and not including tech? Wow, like tech is my life. Like I live and breathe tech. Photography, videography, is that included as part of tech? Can I say I'd love to get into photography? I really enjoy it. So when we go to events, everyone, if you want your photo taken, please let me know. I love doing it. It's good practice for me and I really, really enjoy it. So I think photography or videography, it wasn't tech, but yeah, tech is just so vast and so amazing, right? You know, we write code, we write tests, we write documentation, we go to events, we do photos and videos. I mean, it's just all so amazing. We do socials as well. It's just so cool. Tech really is for everybody. I don't know if I answered your question or not. Let me know in the comments below. Actually, while you're all down there, let me know in the comments below. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Abhishek asks a question that I get asked all the time, so I'm really excited that they've asked this so I can include it in this video. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to create content on Twitter and tries to do more public speaking and needs some advice to be consistent? Well, to be consistent, plan ahead. That's what you got to do. Like, I'm not tweeting today. I tweeted about it like a few days ago. I've scheduled it. I think that's really important. I use FeedHive. There are loads of other alternatives you can use, but I recommend FeedHive. It's my favorite. And scheduling really helps. And same with your videos, right? I've got YouTube videos scheduled for the next couple of weeks. I think that's really important. Same with live streams, right? They're scheduled on YouTube already. So therefore, I'm kind of almost holding myself accountable. So that's why I highly recommend. In terms of public speaking, submit CFPs, but start off small. Maybe do some local meetups, start off small. Maybe even do online live streams with somebody else, right? You don't just have to give a talk by yourself. You could do a talk partnered with someone else, which I think is super important. I think those are quite fun and interesting. Just have a conversation with someone about a specific topic, and that could be like a kind of a panel discussion, but then you could have a talk that you've both prepared as well. And then you can build up to go into the bigger conferences and giving a talk by yourself. To be honest, get started and you'll find it so much fun. You'll meet so many amazing people. You'll learn so much. It'll open so many doors for you doing all of those things that you'll just want to do it more. And then being consistent won't be your issue. It'll be dealing with all the invitations and notifications that you get, which is a good problem to have. I'm not sure about Dean's question here. Would I rather fight a horse-sized duck or 1,000 duck-sized horses? I'm not sure. Dean, let me know what you think. Here's a question from Vicky. What motivated me to start open source? Well, to be honest, there was some missing documentation and I got stuck and I couldn't understand why I couldn't get something to work. It's going back like well before Git and GitHub, so over 10 years. I wanted to like solve it and I couldn't understand why. I was reading documentation and it just wouldn't work. Eventually I managed to solve it by searching the internet, for hours and days. And I thought, well, I don't want that to happen to anybody else. So I contributed to the documentation to add the 1 or 2 lines just to show them the configuration that they needed to make it work. And then from there, I fixed typos, I improved test code coverage, and really it snowballed from there. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's opened all my doors for me. Open source has been the #1 thing that has really, really helped me. So I can't recommend you all enough to get involved to open source. And no, you don't have to code, and no, you don't have to contribute to the biggest and best and fastest and most popular projects out there. Just contribute to any project. You will meet and learn so much, and then you'll discover new projects as time goes on. Anya asks, which advice would you give to a new community builder? Well, first of all, I'll definitely say make sure you have rules and make sure you enforce them, because otherwise things can get out of hand really quickly. And you get people who try to like push the boundaries and test the system, and to be honest, you can straight away see if someone accidentally and honestly made a mistake and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. And that's fine, we all make mistakes. But you can also see if someone's trying to push the boundary a bit more, and they're kind of like a troll and always trying to do things that are kind of on the fence. So it's not enough to be banned, but really it's not recommended. And if they keep doing that, then I have zero tolerance for that. So I would say I have zero tolerance for those trolls and those troublemakers. Make it a safe and inclusive place, but have those rules so you can say these are the rules, these are the 5-6 rules of our community. And to be here, have fun. We want you to geek out with people, we want you to learn, we want you to share your content, but you need to abide by these rules. I'll also say don't focus on the vanity metrics. I think people focus too much on the vanity metrics. They will come later. I think it's important to focus on getting everyone to collaborate and feel safe. And people, if they feel safe, then they'll collaborate. I think that's really important. I mean, a good thing you can do is maybe join a few communities and see what they're doing and see what you like and what you don't like, and just kind of pick the best from multiple communities. Anya, what community are you starting? You have to let me know in the comments below. I don't know why I'm whispering. Let us know in the comments below, and then we can kind of, shout it out. It sounds exciting. Looking forward to seeing what the focus is. And that's the last tip I'd like to give actually on the community building. Make sure your community has a focus. I think the more focused it is, the better, and the less kind of loads of different kind of conversations going on. It will all be focused. For example, EddieHub is focused on open source. That's what we focus on. And there are other communities focused on content creation and accessibility. And I think that's really important to try and have that focus. I said focus a lot in that one. Imran asks how to write a good CFP for the first time speaker and how to choose topics. This is a great question actually. And Amanda actually suggested us doing a Twitter space or a live stream, giving some tips on this and maybe reviewing people's CFPs, giving some suggestions. So just off the top of my head, some thoughts now, but we'll dig deeper into this. Make sure it's a topic that you're really passionate about, because then in your talk and in your abstract, your CFP, it will come out, right? You're going to shine. When you say open source, right, you see my eyes light up, I get excited and get really, really keen to geek out. So choose a topic that you're really passionate about. I think that really, really helps. And also make sure the abstract, when you're submitting the CFP, isn't like 2 words, but also make sure it isn't 5 pages. You've got to put yourself in the reviewer's shoes. They're going to be reviewing quite a lot of these. So they want a bit of information, but they don't want too much, especially if they're reviewing, 1 to 500 CFPs. So you want an abstract, you want to show what you're going to talk about and what the takeaways are going to be for the people that are there, what they're going to learn, what they're going to take away, what actionable steps can they take. Hope that helps, but we should definitely have a more focused, dedicated Twitter space on that topic. I think that's awesome. Himanshu says, suggest some organizations which are good for beginners too. Well, of course, the EddieHub, GitHub org is the #1 place. I might be a bit biased, but it's the #1 place to get into open source, to learn, collaborate, accelerate your career and all that great stuff. But there are many others as well. And actually, if you join the EddieHub Discord, you'll see a lot of the community members have their own GitHub organizations. Emma has a great GitHub organization, accessible for all, which I think is great. And Naomi has BeckerBot and their projects as well, which I think is super awesome. We use these in our Discord too. So Discord bots are just super useful, so you can get involved in those. Tamal asked a really good question about time management, and I'm probably not the best person to answer this, but I do find being a digital nomad allows me to have a work-life balance. But Tamal asks, the actual question is, isn't always traveling, creating content, focusing on code stressful? How do you even manage time for so many things? What's the secret? Well, to be honest, I'm documenting my journey. So you can see I did a tweet, I'm recording a video from those tweets. So I'm not trying to always create content. And my previous videos and my next videos will be on some coding that I've done for the Link3 project, on open source, on what I've learned and some challenges I had. So again, I'm finding that I'm documenting my journey with my content on Twitter and on YouTube. That kind of comes from open source and the EddieHub community collaborations. So I feel it might look like I'm doing a lot, but I'm kind of making it work harder for me, the content, if that makes sense. And that's what I highly recommend for everybody else. But the traveling part, I don't like jumping to destinations too often because I find unpacking, repacking, setting up my studio is quite time consuming and tiring. So these kind of next 6 weeks, we're in Bangkok and then we're in Chiang Mai and then to Japan. And then we'll kind of settle down for 2 months. And then we'll move again for another 2 months to another island. But 2 months is not too bad. I think 1 month is my preferred, minimum 1 month is my preferred time. But we wanted to get a lot done in these first kind of 6 to 8 weeks. So we're definitely moving a lot more than I thought. But we're going to experience different places, which is super interesting. Because I've never, stayed in Bangkok for more than a few days. Been here about 10 days now. We're here for a total of like 3 weeks. As amazing Bangkok is, it's too busy, too crazy for me. I like quieter places. But I wouldn't know that without actually trying. Let's just say Bangkok makes London look really small and quiet. So my answer to you, Tamal, is I don't know. I don't have a strategy. I just try and I don't really watch TV. I just try and kind of not waste so much time. And then when I'm relaxing, I relax. Or I try and do both. You've probably seen my photos on Twitter with me relaxing by the pool or by the beach with my laptop. And that is me relaxing, doing some easy things because, some things are easier to do. For example, going through notifications, it takes time, but it isn't hard work. Whereas maybe doing a whole new feature is a lot more focused and I want to be inside in the air conditioned and completely zoned in. So it depends what I'm doing as well. But I find kind of taking a break or working outside or different environment gives me that creativity, which really, really helps me. And everyone's different. People, I think, need to try different things and see what works well for them. And Graham, the final question, asks, what's the hardest part of being a digital nomad? I kind of answered this in the previous question, but I'm just going to go over it again. I think the hardest part is doing all the admin, and by admin I mean getting visas, booking plane tickets, booking hotels, Airbnbs and so forth. I find that really time consuming and quite tiring. It's fun to begin with and it gets kind of really tiring really quick. And you're trying to kind of get the best deal as well. And so do you fly late at night, early in the morning, but you don't want it to ruin your previous day as well. So it's just finding that balance, I think. And sometimes you want an Airbnb that isn't quite available. So do you go to a different destination first for a bit of an experience? So yes, traveling with my kit, we did travel with 75 kilos last time to Bali. I think we got it down to 70. Sarah will have to check and let me know. So 65, 70s, we got it down a little bit, but not as much as we would want. We really want it down to 40, but yeah, no chance. So yeah, kit, traveling with kit, especially when you have like internal flights that cost like $30 or something like that, and then excess luggage is like $400, and you're like, you kind of like grudge that excess weight. And then packing and repacking, especially with the kit. Clothes, you just throw them in there, but with the kit, you kind of want to pack it and make it all really safe and sensible. So yeah, that's probably the hardest part, but I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world, and look forward to seeing all of you on my travel and adventures around the world. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And next month, when I post on Twitter to ask me anything, please put in your questions. I love your questions. I love questions. And I'll include it in my next AMA video. I'll see you in GitHub Discord, link in the description below.